Welcome back. In this video, we're going to set up our application, and therefore I'm going to show you what we want to end up with, not after this video, but after this entire day. Basically, we have our application here. You can see we have beef, chicken, dessert, lamb, pasta, and so forth. And these are just the categories that we want to display. So as a result of today, we just want to make sure that we display the categories. We're not even going to go into the actual details about any given recipe or so forth, but we are interested in the categories that are made available. And you can see these are the categories that are available. It's not more than that, but it's already nice enough because we see we will need a lazy column, which allows us to scroll through and display the items. We will see how to display images, how to load the data, and so forth. In order to get all of that done, let's go ahead and create a new project. And therefore, I'm going to set up an empty activity application that I'm going to call my recipe app, like so. And everything else can stay pretty much the same. Let's go ahead and click finish. And this will now give us this app. I'm going to close my older application. So let it load, because as you know, it just takes a little while. All right, so now that it's loaded, let's set up the implementations that we're going to need. So inside of your Gradle scripts, and we've never touched those before, there are these build.gradle files, one for the project and one for the module. So module : app. Let's go over to this file. All right, it's very important that it's this one and not the other one. So here you can see there are the plugins that are added, in my case version 8.20 beta 6, and then the ID version 1.90. I believe in your case it shouldn't say beta 6 here, but either way, let's go into build.gradle.kts. And what I am interested in inside of this file is, if we scroll all the way further down, the dependencies. So here you see you have a bunch of dependencies. So these are basically implementations of what item or what libraries you can use inside of your application. And as I said, we have these libraries that we can always import directly inside of our main activities. You can see them here, but those are dependent on what we have here. So we can only add the ones that we have implemented here inside of our imports here. So in order for us to use what we want to do, we need to add a few items. And I'm going to copy paste them in here. You need to make sure that you type them out exactly as they are written here. So the compose ViewModel. Okay, so it's implementation, opening bracket, Android X, lifecycle, lifecycle ViewModel compose 262. Now there might be later versions at the moment that you are using this, but I would still recommend to use the same one that I do. Otherwise you might run into trouble or into errors that I don't run into, and I will not show you how to fix those errors in the future because I'm not recording it in the future. Okay, now in order to make a network call, basically connecting to the internet and collecting data from the internet, basically in our case from this MealDB website, because we only need this little string which is of type JSON, but we still need to load that. And then we also need to load the image. So in order to download the image, we need to make sure that we have the right libraries available that will make this a lot easier. Otherwise we would have to write loads of code to just get the same functionality done. So basically you could think of this as some external party, like a group of developers that build a bunch of code and now make it available for us or to us, so that we can save loads of time and loads of code in order to achieve downloading data. So that's what retrofit does. It allows us to make network calls, basically calling the network and getting data. And then there is this thing called JSON. It's also from retrofit 2, and this is allowing us to convert JSON files, so JSON objects, so basically the code that we saw here, how a JSON object looks like. So this stuff here, or you could also say this JSON object, converting all of that into a Kotlin object. So into something that we can work with inside of our Kotlin project, so that we can access its properties straight away. So it's basically going to be treated like a Kotlin object, like a class that we need to define how the class looks like, what kind of data we need from that, and then we can load that data from the internet and make it available as objects inside of our project, and then directly access its properties, for example, the name, so that we can display the name, as well as the link to the image so that we can download the image. And in order to actually download the image and display the image, we're going to use another implementation. So it's going to be this IO coil KT coil compose. So this one is to convert JSON files, and this one is to load images. So inside of the JSON file, we will find out which images to load. And here we're going to actually load the images. And this is another third party that just makes it so much easier for us to do that. Otherwise, it would be a lot more code that we will need to write and all of that. So once you make changes to your Gradle files, you need to sync your project. So click on the Sync Now button, and then your Gradle project will be syncing. So it won't sync, but it will sync. Okay. So, and then we can use those inside of our project classes. So now we can, once it's done building the Gradle again, we can use the ViewModel lifecycle, we can use the retrofit network calls, as well as the converter that allows us to convert JSON files to Kotlin objects and maps them directly, as well as load images. So let that happen, and then look at what data we want to actually have from the MealDB website. Okay, and by the way, this took a few minutes in my case, so don't worry if it takes a little while. That's just normal because there's a lot going on in the background.